Well, welcome to the Move the Needle podcast. We're live from Craft 64 up in Scottsdale today, and let's see if the magic trick is still working for Steve. What episode are we up to now?
I didn't check. It's not working for me today. I knew you were going to say
Here you had this great method of figuring out where we were.
I forgot where we were last time, and that's the problem.
All right,
I can't even add one.
Let's see if we can do it. Last week it was 30.
Okay, we're 31.
31. Welcome to episode 31 of the Move the Needle podcast. We're going to have Donna Bartos on today, the founder and CEO of BLOOM365, and Sophia Lynn, who's a high school student who's kind of doing the same thing in her high school. Yes. DeAnna DuPree from Impeccable Style is going to join us today. Yes. I felt a little anxiety to dress a little different today because of her.
Hey, I thought the same thing. Impeccable. I'm like, and then I actually did a little reconnaissance, and she looks kind of impeccable herself. So,
well, when she asked us what the color scheme was at the venue, I was like, crap, here we go.
I'm looking at my shirt. I'm like, is this going to okay?
Will this work?
Yeah, will this work?
Look. It's fun. We're doing our best. It's a podcast for crying out loud.
Right.
But we're going to start the journey today with Christina Conte, who comes to us all the way from Brooklyn, New York. She's been here for a long time, went to ASU, and she's got a program that she's founded herself called The Feeding Fix. Yep. And you know what I love about this is so many of the people that we have on this show, Steve, they created a product that they needed to, or they needed first.
Right.
And this is exactly that story today. So, Christina, welcome to the Move the Needle podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
All the way from Brooklyn, you know, I'm a big Beastie Boys fan. And in the greatest...
Didn't know that.
Really?
Didn't know that.
Maybe my favorite band of all time next to Prince.
Are you kidding me?
So in the Paul's Boutique album, which is for anybody who's a Beastie Boys fan, you know this to be true. It's the best album they ever made. The opening line is, "Hello, Brooklyn," and then they drop that big beat.
I got to surprise you. I have a very rare VHS tape I got way back in the day, behind the scenes Beastie Boys.
Awesome. Really?
You're going to laugh it up. Oh, yeah, I'm going to bring it one of the shows, too.
Are you a Beastie Boys fan at all?
So-so.
She was back in the day. Come on now. She's a real New Yorker, though, I'll tell you that.
That's the truth.
I'm the fake New Yorker.
So, well, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here.
Thank
when did you come to the Valley?
In 2002, I moved out here.
Okay. ASU, I guess?
ASU,
Yep. Did you go to ASU?
No.
Oh, my son is going next year.
He?
Mm-hmm. You just had the business at ASU.
Business at ASU.
Right. It's a great school. Yeah, I came out here for grad school. So.
Okay.
Yep.
And you went to NYU.
I went to NYU for undergrad, yeah.
Just like a legendary 3 letters, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It was a fun place.
Did you feel a sense of Did you feel like this great sense of responsibility at NYU to like, whoa, I'm here. I better get this fired up.
Yeah, I mean it's a very prestigious university, and so you want to make sure you do well and honor what it stands for.
So these days, she's a licensed and certified speech language pathologist, a certified neonatal therapist, a swallow and pediatric feeding specialist, and the owner of The Feeding Fix. And then, most importantly, she's a mom. Her son actually just dropped in with grandma right here, and they're watching the whole experience.
How it all started for her.
I know. How did it all start for you?
Well, I always wanted to help people, but as an undergrad, I didn't know or have any idea of what I wanted to really do. And so I took coursework that pertained to psychology. I wound up getting an undergrad degree in psychology, but after that I still wasn't sure, and I knew lots of friends who were going into speech pathology, so it intrigued me a bit. So I started volunteering in different settings to kind of get an idea of what all the different therapy disciplines focused on. And I really fell in love with the speech pathology route, more so the medical route of speech pathology. So after grad school, I accepted a position at one of the hospitals out here, and I've had the opportunity to work at many level 1 trauma hospitals and other facilities around the area.
Will you do me a favor? Will you help me understand what speech pathology is? I'm sure that's a question you get asked a lot.
We do a lot under that one little term. And so in the medical setting, we do a lot of something called dysphagia therapy, which is swallowing therapy. So when patients have a brain injury or a stroke or some other medical complication that impacts their swallowing, we'll come in and we'll do exercises with them. We'll determine if they're safe to orally eat, what types of foods and liquids they're safe to eat. We'll do speech and language therapy if they've lost their ability to communicate. We'll do a lot of cognitive therapy also. And then there's also voice therapy. There's so many areas. And then there's feeding therapy with the little ones.
Right.
So,
What do you like the best, or what's one of your favorite parts of the job?
well, that it's rewarding. You're
Yeah.
giving something back. With the adult population, I always love that you're rehabbing people and helping them go on with their lives after going through something so devastating. With the little ones in the NICU, and then with my business, you're helping them start their lives, and to help the families guide them onto how to help their little ones.
Yeah, but Christina,
Yeah.
for our audience out there, how does this come about? I mean, how did this come about for you? What does this look like when you have a child and you may be thinking maybe something is off, I guess you'd say?
So
or
like what's off?
maybe
What are you
what's up?
noticing?
Maybe the metrics, like how they measure. Is that
Well, typically, like in the NICU, which I started there about 11 years ago, it's a very skilled setting. You get orders from the doctors to come in to determine if the babies are medically appropriate to start eating, and if they're the correct gestational age to start feeding. And from there, we'll do actual feeding assessment. We'll watch them eat. We'll watch them look out for stress cues of any kind. Are they indicating that something's difficult or painful? And then with my business, I get calls from families when they're worried about little ones having struggles with either picky eating, if they're gagging a lot, choking, unable to latch at a bottle.
Yeah, I'm trying
Lots
to
of
I'm trying
various-
to picture this. Is that really
That
it's like
happens.
literally
Happens
just
all the time.
just
Like
not
babies
being-
won't latch
Yeah.
onto a nipple,
Yeah.
and then they
Yeah.
can't
Okay.
breastfeed,
Yeah.
or they can't suck
That's right.
properly,
That's
and so they
right.
can't feed
Yeah.
themselves.
That's right.
so
yeah.
it kind of happens. It's kind of like in the early stages. Then.
It could be in early stages, and sometimes things can be missed early on and then are more recognized as the child grows and the parents are having ongoing struggles. And actually, my son had a lot of feeding issues.
Yeah,
So
let's
that
talk
kinda-
about that.
Yeah, that really pushed me down a whole other side of things, or down the rabbit hole of pediatric feeding disorders, because experiencing it from a parent's side was so different. It was just so stressful and overwhelming.
gosh, yes.
And trying to find the support that I needed out there was a little tricky at first. And so that's another reason why I kind of went into my business then,
Yeah.
trying to get
We had
help.
something similar like that with our oldest, and he had to do some speech classes, I remember early on. And I feel what you're saying a little bit. Like, as a parent, like, what is the one thing we want? We just want our kids to be, like, happy, healthy,
Right.
normal,
That's
whatever the
right.
hell that looks like,
Yeah.
right? And when there's some abnormality there, or they're not doing things on the schedule as the others, like it is, it gets your attention and you get a little bit nervous. But I mean, speak to this a little bit. There is that balance of like, hey, just hang in there. Like, it's going to be okay,
Right.
because it happens for other babies at this time doesn't mean it needs to happen for your baby at this time, right?
Yes, that's true.
Is that part of the cognitive behavioral therapy that you're offering?
Well, that's more of, I do that more with the adults.
Okay.
I do the cognitive therapy, but with the little ones,
guess you're
it's
right.
all feeding and swallowing.
It's a terrible question.
But no, you're fine. Because we do, like when I go in to do an assessment, I'm not looking at just like feeding skill. We're looking at psychosocial. Is there something that could be impacting feeding? Behavioral. Are there nutrition concerns? Is there a medical diagnosis that might be impacting things? And every child will develop a little differently, and so you're kind of trying to tease out, is this normal or is there actually an issue here? And so I always encourage people, I think better to get an assessment or to get something looked at early on rather than waiting and seeing, just in case there's an issue.
Go ahead.
Can some red flags that come up from
I was
parents?
just gonna ask,
Yeah,
what
are the
signs to
some of
look
these
for?
signs. Yeah.
Absolutely. So for infants, some red flags could be like latching, like you mentioned, or difficulties at breast or bottle. Frequent feeding or prolonged feeding. So feeding should take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes to complete. If anything is longer than that, it could be a red flag. If there's any type of respiratory difficulties with feeding, that can be also a red flag. Picky eating, very limited food repertoire. So kids are only picking certain types of textures of food. And then any kind of coughing, gagging, choking, anything like that that's more serious would be a very serious red flag.
Yeah, but because I don't know. I mean, you've got kids, I got kids, you have kids. Like, when you have the first kid, you're kind of learning on the fly.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you're probably right? It's better to err on the side of caution. Just bring in a professional, have an assessment done, because then at least you know.
Yes.
Because you've seen a million things. So you can walk into a room and be like, hey, you're going to be fine.
That's
Or,
right.
hey, we need to work on this right now.
Exactly. Yes.
So here's one of the most common questions that I know is something that you get, which is my kid's a really picky eater. He only eats, or she only eats certain foods. Okay, so let's talk about specifics. At what age should they start to branch out from, we're out of the baby food and now we're like trying real foods and we should kind of mix it up?
That's a great question.
Yeah, what age does that happen?
So solids usually are introduced around 6 months of age, but there's certain things that you want to look for before introducing solids. A little one should be able to independently hold their head and neck up on their own. Good postural stability and support is going to be really important for swallowing safely. And then close to independent sitting will be important. And we also want to make sure that kids are able to either bring toys or food items to their mouths on their own before introducing solids. But 6 months is typically the age where that started.
Yeah.
And research does show that if kids wait or families wait a little bit longer, anything before or by 10 to 12 months of age, sometimes that's when issues can start to develop if we wait a little too long to introduce.
Okay, so at 6 months, we're starting to explore. If by 10 to 12 months we're not where we want to be, that's one of these red flags that Steve talks about.
And sometimes before, I have lots of little ones, like newborns, babies that are a few months old that are having difficulties due to either medical complexities. Tongue tie can be an issue also.
What's that?
So tongue tie is that little string under your tongue.
Yeah.
When it's formed either a little shorter or a little tighter, the tongue may not be able to move like it needs to in order to latch or in order to move the food or the milk in the mouth to then trigger a swallow reflex.
So do they kind of slice into it like a frenectomy?
Yeah, it's a frenectomy. You got it.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah,
I've had one. My son had a frenectomy.
Yeah, so you're familiar.
Interesting.
Have you had a frenectomy,
No.
Steve? Would you even know what it is?
No.
Yeah, so they open the tissue up under the tongue.
No, I do
yeah.
see. I could tell where that is. No.
Yeah.
Or here,
I-
on the top.
Yeah.
of here.
I heard of
Yep.
tongue-tied.
Yeah.
I have heard of tongue-tied, like because it's amazing how the human body is formed. Like it doesn't take much for things to be off. For
That's right.
for things that your tongue doesn't go all the way up. Problem doesn't go all the way down.
Yeah.
Problem.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go. Let's move up a little bit
Yeah.
because I want to talk about when kids are 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're
Okay.
starting to really branch out, and they don't want to explore new foods. Are you dealing with those situations as well?
I typically we'll see birth to 3-year-olds.
Okay.
But yes, I have a few older children that are around like 2 to 3 that like snacky foods. And so is it a texture issue? Is it maybe they have food allergies? That's what you're investigating, all these different
Because
areas.
they can't articulate
right.
that.
Or is it a swallowing problem? Is it uncomfortable when they're swallowing? So we're trying to navigate what could be causing this issue. Getting to that root cause is super important to try to come to a solution.
All right. Well, then, since you only really see birth to 3, let's go back to the babies.
Yeah.
and I mean, it makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. I saw a picture on your website. You
Yeah.
had like a little medical glove on.
Yeah.
It looked like your pinky finger was
Yeah.
in a baby.
Yeah.
And so, what are you trying to get that baby to do?
So I'm trying to feel for something called a non-nutritive suck. So them sucking on like a pacifier or my finger to feel if the tongue is cupping, is it moving like it should, to achieve a good latch. And that could indicate the strength and the quality of their suck pattern for feeding.
This is so fascinating
Yeah.
to
It
me.
is.
I love this stuff.
Yeah. So the treatments. Okay. So you identify this. You say you talk to one of these parents. Okay. I can help you. What does the treatment look like? I mean, is this something that takes months, years?
It can take time. Time and consistency is very important. Typically, however long the challenge has existed, that's as long as it can take for it to improve. And when I go in, it could be either oral motor therapy, working with food trials, working with cupper bottles. We have different types of tools we can use for therapy, for oral motor therapy. So it just depends on what your treatment plan is after visiting with them for an assessment.
What would you say, like an average, like from identifying an issue to we've got this kind of resolved? Is it again? What does that look like?
It could take up to like multiple visits. I could be there 1 or 2 times a week for 6 months.
Okay,
No.
so doable. I
Yeah.
mean, not like something that's gonna stretch years and years.
Right.
So
That's-
parents, if they
yeah.
tackle it, they can
That's
get on
right.
it.
Yeah.
All right, I have a question that could
Yeah.
potentially be a dead end, but I'm curious.
Okay.
It just came to me. What impact does birth trauma have on some of these things that babies experience?
That's a great question,
Wow.
because that's like back to the NICU again.
Yeah.
So being premature, having medical complexities, it could have a lot of impact. So preterm infants, approximately about 40% of them continue to have feeding difficulties for the first 4 years of life.
Interesting.
And so that's why it's so important to help these families when they first get to, let's say, like a medical setting like the NICU, and then even after they discharge, to continue those services. And that's where the tricky part is with follow-up, because wait lists are occurring in a lot of therapy clinics. And so that's another reason I started my business. I wanted to offer more timely services to a lot of these families who have these very delicate
Because you want help right now.
Right,
You don't want to
exactly.
wait 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
or 2 months.
You don't want to, right,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Have you seen, are there any patterns that we're starting to notice as, like, clinical trials are coming out and you're getting more data in, like, and I'm going to ask a ridiculous question, but I think you know where I'm going, like, does a C-section equal this? Does a preterm baby equal this?
Yeah.
Does a baby who's flipped and comes out differently
all of
than
that
they're
could
supposed?
affect.
It all has an impact.
It all can affect things. Yep.
Interesting.
How much
Amazing.
amniotic fluid you have inside or you don't have inside. Yeah, that could all affect
Anything
things.
before the baby comes out that you can tell or you're looking for? That's probably pretty tough.
Well, yeah, that's why sometimes they'll do emergent C-sections on
Yeah.
little ones if they're having medical complications.
Okay.
Yep.
You do a lot of in-home therapy,
I do all in-home right now.
All in-home.
All in-home. I travel all over the valley.
which is
provide
probably
in-home.
really nice for mom and dad.
It is,
Right?
yeah.
'Cause- and baby too, right?
Yeah.
The baby to be in that setting.
Yeah.
And so give me an idea of the typical visit.
Sure. Well, when I first show up, I always try to build rapport with everybody, including the baby, since I'm
Yeah.
going to their environment. And then we'll sometimes sit and chat for a little bit about what's happening and what they've been struggling with. And then I always like to try to get in the mouth and look around and feel around to see how they're using their muscles. And then I always do a feeding. If it's like an assessment, I'll watch mom feed to see exactly what is happening in their natural setting. Is it something that can be adjusted right away? Are there techniques that I can offer to start working on stuff right away? And then from there, we'll develop a treatment plan depending on what we've seen. and
But you're getting
observed.
everybody involved. Like you want mom and dad.
Everybody.
I mean, like whoever's in the home,
Absolutely.
you want them involved.
Absolutely. Family-centered care is critical.
Yeah.
That is so important, because if I come in once or twice a week, or even every other week sometimes, the parents are there all the time, and they're the ones that are going to be really working with that child. So educating them on how to help their little one is critical.
Okay. You can find Christina at The Feeding Fix on Instagram. Anything
Yes.
last from me? Because then I have one more place I'd like to go.
One last question.
Yeah.
What would you say to some parents maybe experiencing some of this stuff, maybe discouraged, that don't know where to look? Is it just,
Call me.
Call me?
Yeah,
Is it
absolutely.
just, is it really?
Yeah, look me up on Instagram or Facebook.
Okay.
Call me. Yeah, and don't wait. If you have concerns, don't wait and see. Get help right away. And like I said, if we do an assessment and there's nothing, there's nothing. But if there is something we could work on, or it's little techniques I need to show you, at least we could resolve, hopefully, the problem sooner than if we waited and then it continued, it persisted.
Because until you get your answer, you're anxious and you're carrying around that
Exactly.
anxiety,
Yeah.
which sucks for mom and it sucks for baby.
Absolutely, and eating is such a necessity.
Right.
We need to eat to survive, and,
Sure.
and especially being parents.
Yeah,
that's our,
it's like
that's-
food and water. It's
yeah.
like,
Gotta
it's
have
like,
it.
It's gotta have it.
The last place that I wanted to go is that you offer cranial sacral therapy,
therapy, yes.
which I am fascinated by. Cranial sacral therapy. Explain to everybody what that is for those that
Sure.
don't know.
It's very gentle body work, where I just put my hands lightly on you, and it's helping to regulate your nervous system. So it can help take you out of a fight or flight or a stress into more of a rest and digest. It could also help release any fascial tension that might be in the body. So like little ones, just from being inside all those months, you can be very tight and have a lot of fascial tension. It's almost, when you get it done, it feels like an internal massage. It's so
Yeah.
relaxing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. It's
You know,
amazing.
like the face relaxes,
Everything.
things calm
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
and we don't really give enough credit to our fascia. And like, if your skin's tight and if we feel wound up, like
Yeah.
what that's doing on the inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I certainly know what's going on right now. If you see me walking around
Well,
with that,
it's one of the reasons I was
I'm
thinking
dealing with it
about
right
It's
now. I'm
like,
dealing with these injuries right now. Yeah,
There's
it's
so
kind
many
of the same
people
thing.
that are experiencing pain, and a little cranial sacral therapy could be an answer.
It can, yeah. And with little ones, like if they have GI symptoms, it could be very relaxing. It help the GI system relax.
Yeah.
It can help with tongue tie again, with releasing fascial tension, since fascia runs from the mouth to the toes. It can help make latching easier sometimes if you release that tension also. And so there's so many benefits. And the reason I got trained in that was because my son had it as a baby with his feeding issues, and I saw how it helped. And it's just so much more of a holistic approach to care also.
Yeah, cool. It's amazing how much we can fix just by calming down.
Yeah, it's so true.
Isn't it so true?
And little ones feed off of their parents' energy.
Of course.
You know, if everybody could just be a little calmer.
Yeah, craniosacral therapy for the world. That's the prescription.
That's what I always say, too.
Oh, my God. All right, listen, look her up at The Feeding Fix on Instagram, and we'll link to her in the show notes, too, in case you want to take a deeper dive into Christina's world. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like we got a clinic, didn't we?
Yes, thank you, Christina. You're definitely moving the needle for sure.
I appreciate it.
I mean, that's
100%.
get them out of the gates.
All
I
right.
mean, that's important.
Yes.
When we come back, we're going to sit down with DeAnna DuPree from Impeccable Style. We're going to sit down with Donna Bartos and Sophia Lynn from BLOOM365. We're live from Craft 64 in Scottsdale. We'll see you for segment 2 in just a minute.
Buying or selling a home is one of the most important decisions you're going to make, so you deserve someone who truly cares about your journey. I'm Amy Richardson with the Savvy Realty Group and HomeSmart. Living and raising my family in Ahwatukee for nearly 20 years, this community isn't just where I work, it's my home. Growing up in the Midwest, I learned early the importance of connections and relationships. These values shape everything I do. From our initial conversation to long after you've settled into your new home, I'm here to provide ongoing support and guidance. From staging to cutting-edge marketing strategies, we expertly showcase your home to sell swiftly for the highest possible price. So if you're ready to buy or sell, please reach out to me. And remember, important decisions require savvy solutions.
Well, welcome back. It's segment number 2 of our Move the Needle podcast.
Yeah.
This is episode number 31. We are live at the Craft 64 Pizza Shop up here in Scottsdale. And next we sit down with one colorful character. DeAnna DuPree from Impeccable Style is here. And I have to admit, before we even get going, Steve, I was nervous about, I had a different outfit on before today's show. And I was very comfortable, but then I was like, you know what? Why don't you put a nicer shirt on? Let's give it a go here for the girl. Come on.
I'll say I made sure it wasn't going to be wrinkled. That's for sure. I
Did
was
you?
like, yeah.
Oh,
was
I
like,
ironed for sure.
I mean, too, but I'm like, and when you say impeccable, it's like high standards.
I have that effect on people.
You do.
In a good way.
know,
a very good way.
very
so
good way.
she provides this VIP white glove wardrobe styling services to creative powerhouse women in business. She dresses them for who they are becoming.
Right.
Not that lame person they were 5 minutes ago.
Right.
Let's
Who
bring
are you?
out
Who
who's
are you?
inside.
You're becoming.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
so important.
such a good point of differentiation. We're dressing you for who you're becoming.
Yes.
I'll tell a quick story that'll kind of articulate
Please.
this. I was
Ooh, we love stories.
I was in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I was doing a radio. I was in radio for 28 years. So I was doing this radio show there, and I got a phone call from Washington D.C. and they brought me out to interview me, and I didn't hear anything from these guys for 2 months, right? And I called my mentor at the time, and I was like, dude, I don't know what's going on. He's like, here's what I want you to do. Starting tonight, you're already in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
Dress for the job you want, not the job you
That's
have,
right.
right? And from that, and then you know what happened? 2 weeks later, the phone call came.
That's right.
3 weeks later,
Right.
I'm moving to Washington,
Waiting
D.C.
on
You
you
were
to
ready.
start believing it.
That's what it
Start
was,
believing
wasn't it?
Literally. So many clients. I'm sorry, were you done with my introduction?
Yes.
Yeah. You
Jump
can
right
roll.
into the
You can
goods.
But
roll.
so many of my clients, when I shop for them, they say, "Oh, I don't have anyone to wear this." I'm like, "Just wait." And 2 weeks later, like, "Oh my God, I got invited to a gala." I'm like, "Oh, you did? How about that?" Or the promotion I was seeking, I finally got. You now have the wardrobe you're ready for.
Yeah.
If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? So I dress for. Tell me what you're going after, even if it's a marriage or a divorce.
Yeah.
I'm dressing you for that person so you start to see her and feel her immediately. You don't have to wait until something happens, something drastic happens. See that person now. Live it now.
I bet
Be it now.
there's a million little girls out there who you have their dream job,
Yes, I
right?
do.
You think about
I get paid to shop.
you
Yeah.
get paid to and dress people
Play dress up.
it goes back to the earliest days,
Literally,
doesn't it?
literally. I mean, I'm literally feeding my inner child every time that I get do this work. And I remember being 6 or 7 years old, and my mother was a makeup artist when I was a kid, and she got a promotion to work at like HBO. And it was like huge, like, oh my God, we get to like work in a corporate space. And the first thing we did was go shopping. And I just remember the feeling of like having like no budget. And I was like, oh, this is what life is, right? And she was like, pick whatever you want.
Wow.
And the whatever you want, it was the things that I always wanted. Typically it was like, we can't afford that, put that back. But this one time I got to like live in that experience of this true girl shopping spree. And when I do that for my clients, I'm like, they don't get to see what I'm buying until I arrive at their homes. But I buy everything I can imagine that's in the budget. She may say no, or, maybe I'm not ready for that yet, but I buy at least an additional 40 pieces just to make sure.
Okay, so this walks us to a really good, or like an important question.
Sure.
I don't have to spend $1 million to look like $1 million bucks.
Not at all.
Right?
Not at all.
So how are you helping people who are balling on a budget kind of like get in and step into themselves without spending a ton of cash?
Great question. Once I have asked a few questions, who are you becoming? Who's your style icon? Who's your client of choice?
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, that client will be attracted by this one or two things. Maybe it's a color, maybe it's a really cool jacket, maybe one investment piece. Otherwise, I'm going to teach you how to use the clearance racks, how to shop online the right way. You just need to have a prioritized shopping list, not go crazy. The list will keep you in a boundary. I only need one black pair of pants. I only need 2 high-waist pants. I only need a silk blouse. That's all you need. And I teach you how to build a wardrobe capsule with maybe about 40 pieces, and you can they all interchange.
Yeah.
So you don't need to have 1,000 pieces in your closet.
It's like every year GQ releases this article, and they say buy these 6 suits, and you can make 48 suits out of.
The same for women.
It's the same for women.
The same for women, and we can do separate so much easier than men.
Okay.
We can have 5 blouses and 10 pants, and by the time I switched it out with shorts and jackets and blazers and a scarf, you had no idea it was the same shirt I wore 2 weeks ago.
So let's get practical, okay? I could talk about fashion all day long.
I love it.
Let's get practical.
We talk about he's a fashionista. You'd be shocked.
We love it.
Okay, so it's summertime, right?
Yes.
A lot of women, men too, are getting ready to step into the summer, and the old wardrobe, the fall wardrobe is going, and the summer wardrobe is coming up. So, for like my wife, religiously says, "I hate everything in my closet."
Yep, I hear it every day.
I know you do. And I'm like, babe. Anyways, it's a losing battle. But
until she finds me.
What's the recommendation to step in? Like, how do you help that person that walks into their closet and goes, "I hate everything here"?
If you hate everything, that means it's time for elevation. You're ready. You're spiritually ready for the next version of you. That's why you hate everything, because who you're becoming she's here now. She's looking like, why do we have these?
Right.
That girl's, I'm not her anymore. That's why you hate it. Which is a great indication it's time for the next level shopping experience.
Okay,
right?
I like this.
So even for men, doesn't matter. If you look in the closet, oh my God, I hate it all. That means that person we've served his purpose. Yeah. It's time to go.
But could we just pick up a few things? Like we don't have to exit all of it, right?
Sure.
Like there's certain basics that are gonna
over time
go with a lot of things.
Staples. We're all gonna need jeans. We're all gonna need a white blouse. We're all gonna need a button down with a collar. We're all going to need a blazer, one hopefully with color. We're all going to need a basic black shoe, a nude, a red, right? We're all gonna need those things. Everything else is playtime. You can add a fun scarf or add a fun pendant, but if you just get the staples, and because we're going to summer, get breathable fabrics, things that will wash wear. Though I love silk, it's a no in this 1,000-degree heat. You just walk around with sweaty armpits, and who wants that? But I think if we can just look at and I'll give this to your listeners. I'll give everybody a wardrobe shopping checklist that I have for men and for women.
Yes.
Ooh, nice.
So that way you kind of just know you can use that as your base, as a bridge, and then just play in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This is how it works. Now, do you do? And Steve, jump in when you're ready, okay? Because otherwise,
I'm just listening. I'm Mr. I got all sorts of wrong things going on. I'm a single guy. I pick out all my clothes, and I pick out the same things all the time.
Don't do it.
I mean, I've like basically this version in different colors of like 100 shirts.
Now, my question is, do you want to stay single?
No.
Okay, then hire a stylist.
Okay.
Because she's going to teach you how to dress for the woman you want to attract.
Wow. Okay.
And that's my job.
Keep going on.
Dress
keep
for
going.
the man you want to attract, right?
Okay.
The man is the client, the woman is the client. It's a client.
Okay.
You know, we're about to build a relationship. We're about to get into business together. We're about to get into bed together, right? This is a marriage. So I'm going to attract you. And if I know who she is, if you know what kind of woman you love, adore, and what kind of woman that would make your heart happy, maybe she loves dogs. Maybe you get a cool tie that has dogs on there.
Gotcha.
Maybe you show up
Sweet.
kind of cool and savvy at a dog park. Just walking past.
Okay.
Looking
Yeah.
all stylish, smelling good, has a cool shoe, a cool watch.
Listen-
We're looking at those things.
Yeah. No, I'm up for it. But again, like a
got
lot
one
of
for
regular
you.
guys, you're on your own.
It's true, and I feel for you guys.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I
Okay,
do
'cause-
have a counterpart who does what I do for men.
Okay.
And she is affordable, but she's the same questions.
I saw
who's
that.
the man you're becoming? What kind of woman are you wanting to attract? Let's dress to attract her.
Interesting.
Right? Because maybe the woman that you want to, what's the word I'm looking for? You want to repel,
Yeah.
right? We want
Yeah.
to make sure we repel her, so we don't get her to come over here. But we want to attract the one that's
Yeah,
going to
very
change our
interesting.
lives.
Yeah, I get picked on a lot because because I don't dress up. I
You're
tend to
so
like.
handsome. You know what?
Who's
Oh, thank
picking
you so
on
much.
you, man?
know what his
No, I
problem
just pick
is?
people say,
You know what
why
his
don't you
problem
dress
is?
up? They want me to dress up all the
problem
time.
is he's so handsome. He doesn't have to. A lot of men that are handsome are like, I get away just fine.
Oh, you're making me. No,
Right?
honestly,
Like
people are
Dolly
like,
Parton shirts and camo shorts.
they're like, why don't you wear shoes, Steve? Anyways, they're always trying to give me. I do get
Yeah.
fashion advice, but I end up kind of looking the same. Which I'm not saying I'm not comfortable. I just don't.
Do you
I
have
get
a
no
style-
advice.
Do you have a style icon? Like a
It would be
George
like it'd
Clooney?
have to be like a golfer because that's I always wear
That's
golf
okay,
shirts.
but is there one that's stylish, that's kind of masculine and
No,
manly?
I would have to look that up.
Okay.
No.
So if not, most men tell me, George Clooney or Sean Connery or something like that, right? So we
Yeah.
blend that with like your casual. Who are you
Okay.
on the weekends? What kind of guy? What can we catch you doing on a Saturday, right?
Okay.
So we go and look and see other imagery of a Clooney on a weekend.
What's he
and then-
wearing?
Yeah, how's he kind of showing up? And usually it's a jean, a nice white shirt, and a cool jacket, right?
I know. Hey,
I got you.
The reason why I thank you, the reason why she's so rare, I can think back of even in like grammar school when like I get like that new shirt and I
Yeah.
go to the date dance
Yeah.
and that girl be like that's our shirt. Like she you know what I'm saying? That's how women are like if
You
they
can't
like
wear that
it.
shirt out
yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my shirt.
Well, listen, if it attracts her, you did.
That's what I'm
your
trying to
job is
say.
done.
Yeah.
Right. Now,
Right? And
I've
now,
seen it
honey,
work.
What more? Do you like that? You like this color? You like so women? Like we are tactile. It has to feel good and
Ooh,
smell good.
cotton.
Right? Cotton. They're like cotton silk blends, but it falls so nice on your body, on your physique.
Hmm.
It's smelling like a semiyaki or something. I'm like, ooh.
So that opens up
My
a great
God.
can of worms
Right?
to talk about, which is the idea of dressing for your body.
Yes.
Like and making
Yes.
sure
Oh
that
my
you know.
gosh. Please, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. But, because I'm a tall, skinny dude.
Sure.
And I can walk into any store in Scottsdale right now, and 15% of what they have in that store will even fit me.
Yeah, they
right?
will not have your inseam.
They won't have my
Nope.
inseam. Everything stops at 32,
That's right.
and that's the end of it, right?
Yeah.
But I need a 34 inseam because I have tall, long legs.
Yeah.
Women are no different, right?
Yeah.
Some are curvier, some are
Right.
thinner, some have bigger breasts, some
Right.
have smaller, but
Right.
some have big booties, some
Right.
don't. But like
So many issues.
there's a lot of things to work around. And so do
Yeah.
you have some best practices for people when you're talking to them about, hey, let's start dressing for your body?
Sure. So I have this like two-step system that I do for women. So most come to me because they can't dress that part. Maybe it's their bosoms or their butt or their stomach, and it's called the distract and disguise method. And if you buy something, is it going to distract from the part that you want or disguise it? It's going to make you feel a lot more confident, right?
Oh, that's a
so
good
if you
idea.
have a derriere or whatever the thing is that you just can't stand. Let's distract it by, if I don't want people to look at my bosom, I'm going to have a really cool earring, really cool pants, keep the eye somewhere else than where I
Great
put
idea.
up here, right? I'm going to disguise it with a cool print, a cool fabric where you don't really see what's going on. Same for men. If they have a big belly, you could disguise it with certain prints, disguise it with certain silhouettes of a shirt where you can't really see.
Or, bro, you could stop eating steak and
Or you
beer
can
for the
stop
rest of
doing
your
that
life.
too. That is something you can
Yes.
do. Most
Make
don't
yourself
want to
look.
do it.
Make yourself look a little better. Help
Right?
yourself
Italian
out.
food isn't
Yourself
the
look and
staple.
feel better.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
but we're in this. We spoil ourselves,
Sure.
right? And so it's like, why I gotta do all that, right? It makes me happy, but I think longevity makes us much happier, right?
Okay.
So we can stay a little longer on Earth, look a little better, attract more of the opposite sex.
I
think
love
we're in
the
shape.
idea of distract and disguise.
Yeah.
It's such a simple, tangible
Simple.
concept.
Simple.
Yeah.
Even for someone that's really tall and they don't want to look, enormous next to other people,
Right.
you get distracting prints where it kind of brings you down a little bit.
Sure.
Or
I've always been told,
silhouette.
like, get away from vertical
Yeah.
prints because they make
Yeah.
you look taller,
You look
things like
slinky,
that.
yeah.
Let's talk about trends versus timeless.
Yes. I'm a timeless stylist.
I'm a timeless guy, I
Yeah.
think, too. And
Yeah.
I don't really get excited by a lot of trends. And I'll tell you what pisses me off
Same.
about a lot of clothes
Same.
now is they put this freaking big bam Hugo Boss and it's right on my chest.
And brand.
and
Because
I'm-
you're not
and
getting
it's-
paid to market.
That's right. So talk to me about timeless versus trends
Yeah.
and how you approach that.
So for me, I think timeless is things that are classic, they don't have a print. If you stick with a solid, you never know if that photo was taken yesterday or 30 years ago.
Good call.
If I do a print, a chevron's not even in anymore. So it's like, oh, that must have been in the 80s. And it truly adds time to your face, to your body, and to the moment. Also, if you look at timeless classic pieces, if you go back to how we dress, in the early 1800s, 1900s, there was this je ne sais quoi, even the men carried, right?
Can you say that again?
Je ne sais quoi. That, most men had, and women. And we kind of lost that when we started to get a little bit more casual and comfortable, right?
Right.
But if you think about the classic timeless pieces, we all are going to need or should have in the winter a camel coat, Oxford shirts, men and women, a navy blue. If you stick with the neutrals, navy, maroons, camels, whites, and choose a classic print like a tiny polka dot or a stripe, everything else outside of that is too modern. Because it will age the moment. If you stick with those proportioned dots, it tells you, oh, this could have been in the 80s, could have been in the 50s, could have been in the 30s.
Okay.
So I think for me, I try to style my clients with a classic approach, very Audrey, very Marilyn Monroe. I stay there. I don't really bring them into the modern
Matthew,
era.
I'm just sitting here listening to her. I mean, she does it all. Like I'm trying to
Yeah.
think about what question. I'm like,
I got
she's
1,000 more questions.
Go.
This, that. I mean, okay. So, what impeccable style.
Yes.
What's the essence? Well, how do you describe that to us? Give us some words because
So-
you're doing so many things.
I created my own word that you guys are the first to know. I'm
Okay,
launching my
that's
own
what we're looking for.
podcast.
Okay.
Can we guess it?
It's-
No, I'm just
yes,
kidding. Go ahead.
please.
I,
What would you think?
I wouldn't be able to.
Okay. So I created a word.
What is it?
So it's called bougie.
Bougie.
It's not bougie, but it's bougie.
And it's
Bougie.
not douchey.
It's right. It's chic.
I said it right.
Chic.
Bougie.
It's fun.
Bougie.
It's stylish, and it's elegant. No matter what it is, your car could be bougie. You could be bougie, right?
Yeah.
So bougie is. I've created this word because people say, "Oh, you're bougie." I'm not bougie. I'm bougie.
Uh-huh.
Right,
Bougie.
and so bougie
Bougie.
is more of a feminine approach to elegance, to class, to timeless.
It doesn't work
fashion.
for the guys. Douchey.
You could
It's
be
like
bougie.
it doesn't
No,
work.
you're bougie.
Men could be bougie, right?
Bougie.
Okay.
It just means chic,
Okay.
right? And so I think when I look at my style and my business, I think of the word epic, effortless, polished, incredibly chic.
These are great words when
Yeah.
you're talking about the
Thank
way
you.
somebody presents themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you
I mean,
thought
I
this
think
through.
presentation will kill or truly seize an opportunity. It's
All right.
totally
Okay.
up to you.
I got more questions.
Go.
Do you
go.
have more?
I got one finisher. You keep
Go.
going.
No,
go
You're,
ahead,
you're
go
the
ahead.
fashionista.
No, please.
Okay, mine's up. I got all the fun stuff, but she's gonna play
Tell
along
me.
with this too. Okay, if your styling philosophy was a movie, okay, what would the title be, and what would be the most dramatic makeover be in that
God.
scene?
It's a tough one.
If my movie, say it again.
What would the movie be called? And you're doing a makeover. What would that makeover look like? Who would you grab, and what would you?
Does the
who-
person have to
I
be
guess
a
you're asking her who are
celebrity?
her style icons.
Yeah,
in a-
what
in a
kind?
way.
What would she would do? It's kind
Yeah.
of a. She
So the
gets
movie
it.
will be called Blessed and Bougie.
You're right.
There you go.
And Blessed and Bougie, too.
And Blessed and Bougie. No. Who you
Right?
in the movie? Who you taking and what are you doing?
Okay, so this is where my heart is. I'm taking some like mother who's overwhelmed, undersexed,
Yes.
overworked,
Yes.
and underdressed.
Oh, she is describing
right?
me to a T.
Literally. These are the ones that are like dying on the
Help me.
inside, right? their daughters are watching them walk around in flip-flops and sweat. She doesn't even know what to do. She doesn't even have time, right? I'm remaking her.
Okay.
Truly. You know,
Okay.
I'm giving her a second chance.
So in that movie, that's the mom.
Girl. She's
so the mom's
somewhere
walking
working
out
as a receptionist, exhausted, dirty hair.
But then she's walking in the door, and you're
But
like,
she's
who?
brilliant.
But then she's walking like, who's that, right?
That's right.
Because she's empowered.
Cut to
Yeah.
next scene.
This is what she does.
If you look at all the movies, when someone gets an elevation, the next scene they are completely
Impeccable.
Julia Roberts.
Impeccable.
Pretty Woman, right?
Literally.
She goes
Impeccable.
shopping.
What was the movie with like Meg Ryan and Working Woman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They totally switch into character. Now it's time for me to boss it up.
Tweak it right up.
Boss it up.
Boss it
Even
up.
if for men, boss it up. What are we doing for our next level, next version of ourselves? That is who we're focused on shopping for and dressing like.
Yes, I love it. Okay, I want to talk about accessorizing.
Okay.
So, and let's just kind of work
Fashionista.
from the top down. Okay?
Okay.
So, where are you on hats, glasses, earrings, necklaces?
I'm into all of it.
Yeah.
It just needs to be appropriate for the right venue, the right time of day, and the right audience.
Okay.
I wouldn't dare put someone in hats, glasses, earrings. They go into a business function, right? Even if you're the host, it's just too much. It's inappropriate.
Okay.
You never want to cover your eyes or cover your hair because it all shows I'm trustworthy, I'm credible when you expose all of you. Right?
Makes sense.
I don't particularly like to see men with earrings anymore, even if it's a stud. It's just back in the 80s. It's not really, or 90s. It's not really a thing anymore. So I don't get that from my clients. I'm like, close the hole. That era is over. We want to really show up.
My dad would be happy.
In my mind, I'm thinking about James Bond for every man.
Okay.
In my mind, for a woman, I'm thinking about Miranda Presley of Devil Wears Prada. Just own the room, command the space, right? Walk in with your head up high, knowing you're the baddest girl in there. No one can outdress you. You are her.
You're talking boss.
You are her.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the position is. You are her when you walk in. So
Yes.
we're dressing for that. So I totally believe in cool specs,
Yes.
cool earrings. But again, proportion is very necessary, and just color. So if I'm going to go to a daytime event, I'm not going to wear big diamond sparkle earrings, right? That's more for an evening, more for a gala.
Yeah.
Proportion is necessary. But I'm into all accessories.
So for guys, belts and shoes are a big deal.
Yes.
And it really is the thing that if you
Yes.
scan a room full of dudes,
Yes. I know.
just pay attention to those two
Yes.
things.
And watch.
And the watch. There's no question about it. So
Gosh,
where
I know. Boy, I'm messing up.
Belts
my
and shoes, bro.
I'm here now, Steve.
Thank you, thank you.
belts, shoes, and
Right.
watches.
I think I'm okay with. I'm okay with the belt, but my shoes. I go
Yeah.
with the sneakers. Everywhere. People are like, what are you doing with your sneakers?
Why?
I just
Why
don't
do you do
because
sneakers?
truth, I got my knees aren't the greatest, and it's a
Yeah.
comfort thing.
But there's so many cool shoes.
I know.
That
I was just.
have okay.
I was just talking. Maybe
All right.
cowboy
All right.
boots.
I'm
You
gonna
maybe.
help you.
Okay, something like
Okay.
that.
All right. I got you.
Oh,
I just got a client, you guys.
yeah, you got one for
You just
sure.
got one right there.
Yeah, because
With women, belts,
Yes.
shoes.
Yes.
You
So
know?
I'm the belt girl. I make a belt called the Goddess Belt, and it's a waist cinching belt that helps her take a couple inches off of her waistline. So I'm into things like that. It has a big sparkle hardware just to give her more of an accentuated look. I don't believe in wearing pants without them anymore because it's just such a necessary accessory to really accent the body
Yes.
and the actual ensemble. Gotta have it.
Yeah, but
Gotta
what's
have it.
interesting is we're kind of emerging from this freaking Lululemon era where
Yes,
everybody's
thank God.
in
I've been
like
protesting.
where everybody's
Leggings
in like
are not pants. Or they would be
cozy
called
cozy
pants.
clothes. And
Oops, another one. What do you think I'm wearing right now? Oops, I'm just. Man,
there's
you're a
still
drill
a time
man.
and place
you
for 'em,
guys.
Steve.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm busting
I was
myself.
blessed with a husband and wife client, right? And so the entire closet was Lululemon. And I was like, tell me the psychology. I'm just so curious why. Well, it feels good.
It feels good.
Right? But then it's also, everybody has it. So if the whole community is
It's
wearing
true.
it, we kind of just fall in line. Do you want to stand out or fall in line with everybody else?
I will say that it's a little awkward when you show up to yoga class and everybody's got the same shorts on. Yeah.
And are we all just like the Bobsey twins here? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Let's
You'll
talk
never
shoes.
see me
Let's talk
falling in
shoes.
line with everybody else.
Okay.
Yeah.
shoes.
Let's
Where are
do
we
it.
at? It's 2025. What do we have?
Yeah.
on,
What
what do we got on the
What do I
hooks?
put on?
So I would love for all of us to stray away from tennis shoes. Okay. There's a time and place.
The gym.
They're called tennis shoes.
Yeah.
Right? Because they were for tennis.
What do you got on,
So-
Steve?
I'm not gonna say.
So There's so many cool shoes. You guys can go to Nordstrom Rack, literally, and find a really, really cool.
But they gotta be comfortable.
Cool loafer. They are comfortable.
Okay.
Tommy Hilfiger, Steve Madden, Cole, all incredible.
Hold on.
Comfort.
Here's my tip.
Nice color.
Buy the Super Feet. They're like a very upgraded insert.
Yes.
Oh.
I take out every pair of shoes I buy.
Yes.
I take out the insert that comes with it, and I put in Super Feet.
Interesting.
Yes.
And every one of my shoes feels
doesn't matter what
amazing.
shoe you buy, you switch out the insole.
Really?
And it gives you the same feel as
Comfort.
if you had on. Thank you.
Out the wazoo.
Okay. Right.
The
All my
heavens
dress
just opened
shoes,
up for
everything.
Steve.
All right, I'm excited.
Yes.
He's going to Scottsdale
No,
Fashion Center right after.
I'm finally gonna get. I'm gonna
Well,
get some
listen,
dates.
but
Yeah, right.
Hell, it's my mission now to get you married. Because now
I don't know. Wait 1 second. Not married.
Okay, hitched, locked in, committed,
Hooking up.
hooked up.
Hooked up. Yeah. Hanging
Fun
out. Hanging
girl.
out. Yeah, I could like that.
Okay.
All right.
So, Nordstrom Rack.
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't seen a shoe over $100 in Nordstrom.
Right.
And they're cool. They're leather. They're laceless. They're just kind of cool leather.
Yeah, you can find good stuff there for
so
sure.
many cool things.
Yeah,
$50.
yeah.
You
Okay.
know? So I'm not the girl. You'll never hear me tell a client, let's go to Fendi.
Right.
I'm not her. Let's go to Nordstrom Rack. Let's go to Macy's. Let's figure it out. If that's what your budget is.
Yeah.
If your budget calls for Saks, then we'll do it. But I
Yeah.
want to stretch the dollar.
Yeah, you don't want to
Yes.
spend money for if you
and I
don't need
want
to.
you to have an array of options when you go into your closet. Where
Yeah.
it's like, you know what, I have options today. I don't have to just keep going to the same one sneaker,
Yeah.
right? How do I feel today? I want your closet to feel like Christmas Eve. You're just giddy to go inside. Like, oh my God, I have so much good stuff in here. Where am I gonna play you in today?
This is such a good interview, and we
I
could do
love
this
it.
for hours and hours and
I'll
hours.
be back. You call
But
me
we've got
back.
Donna Bartos and Sophia Lynn
Oh, she's
standing
here.
by,
Yeah, yeah.
and I know they want to get on the pod too.
Yeah.
Sorry, girls.
I would love to have you back.
I would love
Yes.
to come back.
I mean, what I'm envisioning right now is like a women's retreat where you come in at the end and
Yes.
there's like a whole thing
Yes,
happening.
Yes. So
How
I'm
about just
launching-
getting me going so we could say like
Steve
this
is
is
like,
good.
what about
Give
me?
Yeah, I know, yes.
It's all about
I am
me. here.
launching a 12-week program called Confidently Unleashed, and
Okay.
the 12th week is in an actual retreat style. So we
Wow.
can play dress up and have clothing to celebrate
I
their
freaking
wins.
love it.
Yeah.
Psilocybin and get your shit together.
That's it, right? Because they're gonna be
She's like-
transforming. by the
Deanna's
third
like,
week.
let's do it.
Let's do it.
Who's
You are
not?
welcome.
Deanna,
Bushies and bushies.
talk about it seriously, like somebody that really backs up the name. I mean, I'm not just saying that.
Yeah.
You have impeccable style.
Thank you
You
so
are
much.
amazing
Thank
stylist
you.
person,
Thank you.
and your personality
Yeah.
is contagious. So
Thank you.
people, I'm sure that people
I
love
received
working
it.
with you.
They do.
They
They
do.
We all become friends.
Yeah.
We have
So
dinners
call
and
her.
Christmas
Call her.
together.
Yeah.
Definitely call me. I'm here.
All right, we'll link to her in our show notes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
a
guys.
guest
Amazing.
on
I
the
wanna
show.
come back.
We will have you
We
back.
didn't go even like where.
I know. We have so much to
So
go.
much to talk about.
We have to, maybe we got to do is like hook her up with Bella Set, one of our sponsors, and
okay.
start talking about what people wear under the clothes
Yes,
too.
that's important because
Okay.
that I always say foundations first.
We can
Right.
hook you up there. They do
Let's do
they
it.
have a personal. Actually, they do the fitting, just your
I
style.
have to
Not
know
super
them.
expensive,
I
but
have to know them.
they
Please.
get the
They do it for
the
men too?
sizes right.
No, just women.
Okay.
But we just
Okay.
did a
got the
fashion show with
Saks
them
for the
last
guys.
week, and I loved
True.
it. They call it 5-minute nightwear. Isn't that
I
sexy?
believe in bedroom candy, you guys. We have to have bedroom
Okay,
candy.
she's coming
Ooh.
back.
I'll come
Okay.
back.
We will see everyone for segment number 3.
Bye,
Where the hell is
guys.
my head going?
Yeah, he's losing. The 5-minute thing got you a little there.
Me all tripped up. We'll
It
see
sounded
every-
kind of sexy though. I liked it.
There was.
Everybody
That
in a
was what
minute.
it
He said it
was.
kind of like sexily.
Thank
He's
you.
blushing, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm here for it.
All right.
I don't care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim Selchin, owner of Tutor Doctor of Ahwatukee, Chandler, and Gilbert. We understand every student is unique, which is why we meet them where they feel most at ease, whether online, at home, or in a public space. Our academic coaching is designed to help even the brightest students overcome organizational challenges, sharpen study skills, and build confidence, empowering them to achieve their best. From kindergarten to adult, we believe every student can be successful. We also have expert SAT and ACT coaches to help teens with college admissions and scholarships. I'm excited to learn how we can partner with your family to help today's learners become tomorrow's successful adults.
Well, welcome back to segment number 3 of our Move the Needle podcast. We're at Craft 64 up in Scottsdale today. Thanks to Christina Conte from the Feeding Fix for joining us today. Thank you to the incomparable DeAnna DuPree. What a amazing guest she was from Impeccable Style. But now we're going to turn our attention to Donna and Sophia here. And, they have a project that started out on a napkin, of all places, which is where so many great ideas develop. And we're talking about BLOOM365. And so, first and foremost, welcome both of you to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
They're like doing a duet on the microphone today, which is great. Donna, you are the founder and CEO of this organization, BLOOM365. So, talk to me about what was on that napkin back in, 2006?
2006, yes. Thanks for reading the website. The napkin really focused on a big, hairy, audacious goal or a big vision to get out there and start preventing domestic violence and sexual assault before it starts versus only after harm care responses. So as someone who experienced all of it, I wish that there was something in my school when I was growing up to help me understand what I was witnessing and experiencing at home and then in my first dating relationship. So the organization was born of a vision that we can do better. We're teaching kids stop, drop, and roll, how to prevent early death from catching on fire. We can teach kids on how to have healthy and safe relationships.
Amen to that, right? It's just reactive versus proactive.
I read a little about that and immediately was like, okay, like, what do you what does this look like? I was immediately intrigued. I mean, how do you where does this conversation, where does it start? Where does it look like?
Well, it should start in homes, but we know that that's not always the case. And so for us, we've adopted a school-based model, and that's what brings Sophia here. And really peer-to-peer, teen-to-teen, Gen Z to Gen Z is where culture change and prevention happens.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about that, Sophia, and what are you doing in those schools?
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit more. I think it's been really great because a lot of the students I know that at my school, I was able to be a founding member of our school's what we call peer advocate crew, and we're able to bring a lot of that direct support face-to-face in our schools. And a lot of this starts with our First Friday campaigns, which essentially are based around certain months, things like Sexual Assault Awareness Month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And I think individually, each one of those, we have specific words that we focus our campaign around, things like consent or respect. And we're really making sure that students are aware of a lot of the red flags that they should be noticing within relationships. I think at the root level, even within our own club, we try to branch out through elephant in the room conversations where we're able to talk about things like what specifically brings people to enter an abusive relationship, or what red flags they can look out for, or where even a lot of these abusive tendencies are learned. And I think because a lot of the times these are the stigmatized conversations, we're able to make sure that youth are not only comfortable with the topics, but also comfortable speaking out against things like abuse.
Can I ask you, Sophia, how many, I know I'm not looking for a hard number here, but percentage-wise, I don't know, maybe you could ball it, how many kids do you think are dealing with domestic violence or in abusive relationships? Is it common? Is it not so common? What do you think today's youth is really dealing with? People your age group.
I think it's really conditional, but I think even the very, very small things that can lead to a very problematic abusive relationship in the future are things that I notice all the time, even within teenage dating relationships.
Like what? Talk specifically to the audience.
Things like partners forcing each other to share their locations. I think a lot of the times that's a red flag that a lot of people don't notice, or even if partners aren't directly violent towards each other, but violent toward objects as some sort of fear-mongering tactic. I think a lot of those things people don't even realize are red flags because they've become so normalized within teenage relationships.
Shaming on social media.
Right.
These are other things that, and I think anything where a partner is trying to achieve a level of power over the other person, right? This is where things tend to go down the wrong track. But it's tough, right? Because if you're a kid who doesn't have the tools or the skill set, or I think that's it. You don't have the tool set to deal with it. You don't, and you just you let these things happen, and then what can happen is before you know it, we're at level 10, right? And it's like, oh my God, how did we get here? And you're suggesting we got here because you sort of ignored all these little signs along the way. So Donna, let me come back to you and kind of ask you that same question. What is the state of domestic violence and abuse right now in relationships in 2025?
So I want to thank you, Matthew, for pointing out that this is about power and control.
100%.
This is not about anger.
Right.
This is someone feeling so powerless that the only way for them to gain control is through verbal, emotional, physical, or sexual violence. And so when we look at the statistics, and statistics are only as good as the number of people who report. So when we're looking at dating violence, domestic violence, sexual assault, we go by the number of reports. The vast majority of these crimes and harms are not reported. Of
course.
And so, asking what the stats are, we know from our localized data.
1 in 4 still?
No, in Maricopa County, 51% of teens anonymously disclose that they have experienced verbal, emotional, physical, or sexual violence in a dating relationships. Yeah. 51%. And 29% are anonymously disclosing that they have done it. And that's the elephant in the room. We have so much after harm care. The bulk of money and investment goes to after harm care victim services, which is essential. But when you've got 29% of thousands of young people, teens primarily, saying, hey, I'm doing this, but there's no money out there to interrupt it so it doesn't happen again, that's an elephant in the room.
Yeah, no, this is such an important conversation, and I only know this because of my work with the Sojourner Center for years and years and years. I was involved with the Sojourner Center, and I got to meet so many incredible women. And I mean, hearing the stories of why they wouldn't leave, or the circumstances that didn't allow them to get out in a way that felt safe for them and their kids and their family, and sometimes their dogs, with their heartbreaking stories. And it isn't a real fun conversation to have.
No.
It is the elephant in the room, but it has to be addressed, because I think what you're doing with your program at Bloom and what you're doing in high school, this is how you solve the problem. You get to the root of it. You get to people before it goes down, or you let kids know, hey, if this happens, then this could, and then this could, and then before you know it, you're down this whole rabbit hole. So I think it's brilliant, this model that you guys have put together. What kind of stories are you hearing, Sophia? If I can go back to you for just a second, what kinds of stories are you hearing from your peers surrounding abuse and like this power struggle that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think one of the most rewarding things is honestly, even at things like our tabling events, when we're able to have handouts where it's a list of red flags, things like sharing your location or making sure that your partner can't talk to anyone else. I think one of the best things is when we're able to have actual teenagers confide in us that they actually do a lot of those things, and they didn't even realize that was wrong. I think in a lot of movies we see very harmful stereotypes of what a romantic relationship is, and a lot of the times they're violent or toxic, and that is the media that our teenagers are consuming. So students who feel that they're able to, I guess, identify that they're perpetrating abuse themselves, or even students who realize that there are people on campus who are aware of the issues that they might be facing, and they have an outlet to be able to talk about that. I've had friends who are able to confide in me about problems ranging from small things to maybe more dangerous things in their own relationships. And I think a great thing about Bloom is that because it operates on so many levels, we're able to have face-to-face communication in schools, but then we're also able to elevate them and give them contact to a lot of the really incredible resources that Bloom also has to offer.
So Sophie, can you talk in more specifically again for the audience about, because I mean, I think for me myself, I want to hear specific. You say like little incidents to big incidents. What?
Well, I think she has, Steve. It's like sharing your location.
No. Okay, but she said even going on more that control piece. Is social media involved? I guess is that what of these other elements are involved? Is it just is it sexual in nature? Is it verbal in nature? Is it humiliation? It's all of it.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think like a lot of the stories aren't like mine to disclose, but I think.
Just generally speaking.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to. I think a lot of times we see emotional manipulation between partners at a teenage level, where they're, I guess, restricting almost everything that teenagers can do.
You can't talk to this person. You can talk to this person.
Right. Exactly. And then they almost feel trapped in a sense. And I think it's really easy for that to escalate, for things even to become violent, or like sexual abuse is often very, very prevalent prevalent, and especially in college, we see that a lot. I think most college campuses are have like over half of students. A lot of times at some of the most prestigious universities have half of students admitting that they have been sexually assaulted in some way, shape, or form, and a lot of those tendencies are learned in high school. So we try to really do a lot of prevention before those tendencies can be continued.
It just pisses me off, like to the like, you don't even know how much it pisses me off, because when it happens to a child and they grow up in it, what ends up taking place is it gets normalized for them later in life. And my podcast, Learn from People Who Lived It, we have interviewed dozens of sexual abuse and domestic violence, and I can almost guarantee you down the line, they all saw it as children. And so in a lot of ways, man, it gets normalized for them, and they don't pay attention to the red flags because they've seen these things in their own home, but mom and dad are saying they love each other, and it's like, it's so confusing, and it's such a tough space to navigate, which is, again, why we need you. So, Donna, let me go back to you and talk to you a little bit about something you've developed called Are You Blooming or Wilting? This is a research-based concept. It really gets to the root of what you all are about. Would you explain that?
So I'm sorry I didn't bring the visual, but if you can visualize a wilting flower and a blooming flower, that wilting flower, the center of it, demonstrates and lists the most common red flags or characteristics or behaviors that you might see if someone is being verbally, emotionally, physically, or sexually violent, like intimidation, threats, humiliation, isolation, financial control, coercion, dominance, etc. Some are subtle, some are overt. And the stem of that wilting flower, wilting, says power and control. That one individual wants to have, or a group of individuals wants to have control over another group, they will use these tactics to gain that power and control. But the solution and prevention and stopping this before it starts lie in the roots of the wilting flower and the roots of the blooming flower. The roots of the wilting flower demonstrate decades of research and theory and risk factor identification on what are the most prevalent and common roots or causes or reasons why these incidents continue to persist. So while we don't have a lot of data or stats to lean on for those that report, we do have fatality reports of lethal domestic violence homicides, sexual assault reports, and you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can connect them looking back. That's a Steve Jobs quote. And when you really think about looking backwards on these cases, these roots are the most common things that are prevalently found in these lethal situations, where you've got unhealthy or rigid gender norms, you've got deep insecurity. If you don't love me, no one else will, so I'm going to take your life, I'm going to take mine. I feel unheard, I feel powerless, so I'm going to shoot up my school. Looking at taught abusive behaviors, exposure to violence as a child, the social acceptance of these problems in every layer of our society and of our world. Someone sees or hears a rape joke or sees sexual harassment happening or sees a partner trying to control another and says nothing because, well, it's none of my business, or I don't want to get harmed too, or everybody knows someone who's experienced this and it's just so normalized, and that's a problem. So that's the wilting flower, and the blooming flower is the flip of all of that.
Okay. So I have so many things that I want to get out of you guys because they'll be helpful for people. I've come to learn that if let's say you have a friend who's in a situation like this, Steve, right? The worst thing you can say is, well, why don't you just leave? Because it's just not that simple for everybody, right? And so that's the first thing I want to say. Like, if that's what you want, those are the words that you want to articulate, I beg you to just shut your mouth.
That's going into what I call the Jones zone.
Right. Okay, so explain that a little bit.
You're judging.
Yes.
Giving your opinion.
Right.
Giving advice.
Right.
And nudging them to do what you want them to do. You want them to leave without knowing all the hooks and dynamics that are going on in that relationship.
I have seen the women who show up at the Sojourner Center, and they literally show up with the outfit that they woke up in that morning. Same thing for their kids, same thing for the dog, right? Because they have no control in their life anymore. They don't have any access to money. They don't have any access to, they don't feel safe at home. Like, there's like so many layers to this thing, which is why this is such a great mascot, if you will, the elephant. I will tell you guys that the elephant has a different connotation for me, and it's applicable here. I had a spiritual teacher one time tell me that we're all the elephant tied to the plastic chair, And what that means is sometimes we think that we don't have the power to get up and walk away, but we do have the power. But it's going to take a really good group of people and support around us to help us get there. So how can I offer support to my friends? And let's start with Donna, and then I'm going to ask you the same question, Sophia, because I want to, how can we support our young people, but how can we support moms out there? And then dads too. Like, this happens on both genders, but it's more common for women.
It's really supporting all people who are either experiencing it or are witnessing it or are doing it. That's another elephant in the room. We're not providing, especially if they're a teen, if you're 14, 15, 16 years old, perpetrating these harms, there's hope for changing those behaviors. And so I developed a training program called Level. Do you want to describe what that is?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, grab that mic, pull it nice and close.
It's instead of going into the Joan zone, you level with them.
Got it.
Yeah, so leveling is really great because you're able to essentially focus on different aspects of the problem and then be able to work them out with a peer. So you start with listening, and it's making sure that you're able to, I guess, like, hear out the problem, make sure that the other person is being listened to and they really feel heard. I think a lot of the times with teens, one of the most I guess, like, pressing things is that teens feel that they have to be able to help their friend directly. But while that is really important, it's also important to, I guess, turn it over to professionals sometimes when the problem becomes out of your reach. And then empathizing is also super important, and validation. And I think beyond that, I think it would be also really great for you to be able to talk about some of the professional resources that Bloom has to offer, because after I'm able to do my part, I usually turn it over to someone that might have more expertise, because after all, I'm also just a teenager. So sometimes I do as much advocacy as I can, and then once it becomes out of my reach, it's important to, I guess, hand it over to the professionals. So.
Yeah.
And a couple of important points to unpack there. 80% of teens are going to go to each other before they come to an adult if they're experiencing victimization. So this level response training was created to empower natural helpers, peers, friend of friends, even family members on what to say and what not to say if someone you know discloses victimization. Certainly, we don't want teens in a position to feel like they're going to be a counselor or that they have to step into that role of professional or expert. That's not healthy. That's sometimes not safe. That creates vicarious trauma for them to carry that on their shoulders. So Level is really about listening actively and reflectively, and how you do that without going into the Joan zone. Empathizing, how do you empathize with their situation, and really focus on not trying to make decisions for them, understanding where they're coming from, and recognizing that their lived experience might not be the same as yours. So going into the Joan zone is not appropriate. How to validate their experiences by not blaming them. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you call for help? Why didn't you report it? Why have you waited so long? Why did you even pick that person? I told you they weren't good for you. How to validate them by simply saying, I hear you. I'm sorry that happened to you. I believe you.
How can I help?
How can I help?
Yeah.
And then to encourage them. So Level is an acronym. We love acronyms in this work. How to encourage them to self-advocate so that they can get to a point of well-being, of boosting self-esteem, feeling safe, feeling stable, feeling like they have confidence and that they have skills that they can work on, so they don't have to focus on all the bad things that this person who harmed them said was awful about them. And really how to connect, and how not to be isolated and build their social connectedness. And the final part of Level is linked to resources. This is the most important part. We provide teens and other people, like trusted adults in the lives of young people, on how to make that warm handoff while they're driving the bus, that the person who's providing the support is not driving the bus. You're giving the wheel to the person who's experiencing it, so that that self-empowerment can be there, and so that you're not going into the Joan zone and telling them what to do. For instance, what would be helpful for you? Would you like information on versus call this hotline because you're a victim?
Like, what is that, right?
It's really empowering, because what we have to think about here is the nuance of dating abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault. An individual took their power away. Someone took this person who's experiencing victimization, their power away, either by force, by intimidation, by coercion. And we, as the trusted peers or adults in the lives of those who are experiencing it, if we tell them what to do, we essentially are taking their power away.
Yeah.
What conversation I like to make this real and tangible. I'm a dad. I've got 2 boys at home. What conversation should I be having with my 2 boys tonight after listening to this podcast? What should I say to them, Sophia? You can chime in here. What's coming to your mind?
I think it's interesting because a lot of teenagers don't have access to any of this information at all. When I think of the most important things that I guess I've taken away from the BLOOM365 curriculum, which essentially we have a dose-by-dose curriculum that we're actually able to administer within schools, I think one of the most important things that anyone can practice is empathy. It's my favorite word from the campaigns that we have at BLOOM365. And I think it's a concept that a lot of teenagers simply just aren't really ready to fully understand. I think we're taught sympathy at a very young age, but I think empathy, especially when it comes to interpersonal violence, is maybe the most important thing. I think being able to put yourself in other people's shoes, even when you look at the breakdown of level, I think that is something that's really great that everyone should be able to learn. But I think a lot of that boils down to empathy. I know that it's just one of the words out of the 5 steps, but I think being able to understand where someone else is coming from and not only be able to put them in their shoes, but also understand how you're able to move on from that point is super, super important. I think the Bloom curriculum is something that obviously our goal is to be able to expand to every public high school, whether it's in Arizona or in any other state. But because it's something that's very hard to do, I think advocacy at its roots is surrounded by empathy, and being able to have that conversation with your kids if they're not getting access to those resources at school is very, very important. What I personally love about Bloom is that I guess it creates advocates like me, but from there we're also able to pass out resources at school, have conversations at school that makes everyone able to be an advocate themselves.
Sure. And Donna comes in and says it's one thing. You come in and say it to your friends. It's like now they hear it.
Matthew, I wanted to kind of go back to your question about a parent and how to talk to you. You said 2 sons?
Yeah.
So I didn't bring it with me, but I have it in the car, and I'll make sure that before I go that you have them. We have a very simple tool, our red flag checklists. And they're available for your viewers too. So if anybody wants to contact us and listeners afterwards, we can get those out. There's a QR code on those checklists. And what I would suggest is you ask your boys, your sons first, hey, is this a conversation that you feel comfortable having? You want to give them the choice to start that conversation with you.
Okay.
Because if you're forcing this, you might not have impact, right? They got to be driving the bus somehow.
Okay.
And or hey, like I learned about this. I encourage you, or maybe
that's
we
usually
can watch.
How it goes for me. Because of the line of work, I usually come home and I'm like, all right, so we interviewed this woman today.
There you go. So if they're used to it.
Yeah, and I mean, we have these conversations all the time with our kids, right? It's like, so I interviewed this woman today, and she said this. Do you guys see this at school? Do you see this with your friends? That's typically how it goes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the red flag checklist is a good tool to have a conversation. Like, are any of these things that you're seeing?
Yes.
And that QR code that's on them, there's a video. So if you want to watch the video together, you can kind of have that conversation about, oh, what are we picking up on here? And how prevalent is this in your school? And what's being done about it? You can have that conversation with them.
Beautiful.
And if they're inspired, and how old are they?
18, 16.
And they want to be peer advocates.
Right.
These are paid positions. We train them to go do the work peer-to-peer in their schools and communities. We would love to have them.
We will put that QR code in the show notes. And honestly, I can't thank you both enough for the work that you're doing. You said something a minute ago. I'm just a teenager, but man, there's so much more happening there, Sophia.
That's where it's at. I mean, right
you're
now.
holding more. I don't want to use the word power, but you're holding more cards than you think you do because of the role that you're in. And Donna, thanks for getting on that napkin back in 2006 and coming up with this, because we all know the statistics, and we all know that if we get in front of this thing, we have a much better opportunity probably to change the trajectory of people's lives. So, wow. Thank you guys very much for being on with us.
Thanks for dressing the elephant.
Can we share our acronym, what BLOOM365 stands for?
Let's go.
And I'm gonna show up your
we
beautiful
got our
shirts
kindness T-shirts.
Beautiful.
And our elephants.
And so what does it stand for?
So BLOOM365 stands for Bring Love Onto Others More 365 days a year.
There it is, man.
Awesome.
What a perfect way to wrap up from Craft 64 in Scottsdale today. Thank you both.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing.
To Christina, and thank you to DeAnna DuPree, and thanks, Steve, for a great show today.
Great show.
We'll see everybody next time on Move the Needle.
Thank you.